for the consumer policy is the dominant position of booking. And I said it's already the case. There is already a dominant position on the market, but with an increasing, after such a merger, it's a reinforcement of such a dominant position, with more and more difficulties for new incomers or for existing very small other hotels to compete. And that's the problem. Of course, we are sure that you're right. It's very important to provide better and better services, but we need to do that in a fair competition. And it's not, first of all, a problem of consumer policy. It's here what we describe, a dominant position that booking has already, and it's very dangerous to see an increasing of such a dominant position with such a merge. And without any clear and concrete sufficient remedies, it's needed to take such a decision.
Thank you very much. I see two hands raised in the chat. We go first to Yunchi.
The Commission did not follow its proper merger rules in assessing the deal. Could you comment on that? They are basically saying that it's an illegal decision because the Commission did not follow its merger rules assessing the deal. Thank you.
No, be sure that as also Commissioner for Justice, I'm very attentive to full respect for the rules. And we are working with the DG Com, we are working with the legal service, and so we are very open to provide all the necessary elements to show that it's a really legal decision in the framework of our competence for such an analysis of the mergers. I've seen many declarations, but it's not the moment to comment about the declarations of booking. We'll have the opportunity maybe to continue the discussions further in other fora. But again, I want to say that we have applied very strictly the rules, and it's the reason why I said before it's not here a consumer policy decision. It's a decision about a merger due to the dominant position of booking.
Thank you. Samuel Stolten at Bloomberg here. So I have two questions. Firstly, there have been reports that Booking will likely appeal this decision. How confident are you that the case will stand up to further legal scrutiny, particularly in the context of other regulators, particularly the CMA, having approved this deal? And, of course, you mentioned several times the impact that the merger would have on consumers, and you highlighted the fact that you're also the Commissioner for consumers. Under your leadership of the competition policy file, which could be temporary or not, it remains to be seen, how much of a priority is consumers in taking these sorts of decisions, and how much will the consumer welfare analysis feature as part of your direction of the competition policy file? Thank you.
So first of all, about the confidence in our decision, of course, if we are not confident, we don't take a decision. So, of course, we are very confident that we have here a good example. It's a new domain with an ecosystem in the digital world and with a very specific relation with a non-horizontal acquisition, or proposal of acquisition, but we are very confident that we have made a good analysis, and I repeat what I've said about the existing dominant position and the risk to go further. And to answer to your second question, not only about the consumers, I've said possibly an increasing of the price for the consumers, but first of all also the cost for the hotels and the limitation in the choice to an access to the different hotels that they are possible to take on the market. And so that's very important to analyze both. But here it's a clear competition decision. Of course, I'm very concerned by also the situation of the consumers in general, and certainly in such a case too. But it's not an exceptional situation. You know that in other jurisdictions there are also some authorities competent for competition and consumer policy. In Europe too, we have the two models. There are different agencies involved only on consumer policy or competition, but there are others working on both. So it's very useful, of course, to receive information from both kind of approaches, but here it's clearly a decision in competition and in the decision due to a dominant position again of booking that it was possible to reinforce with a risk for the newcomers and for the actual small hotels to compete.
Thank you very much. I'll now take a question, Commissioner, from the chat. Rebecca.
Thank you very much. Rebecca Christie from Breaking Views. I appreciate your time. Should we interpret this decision as being taken in the context of the DMA and the competition-related parts of the Digital Markets Act, both as things stand now and in light, perhaps, of Booking's entry into the gatekeeper space next year? Thank you.
No, we will have maybe to discuss later about some case related to DMA, but here it's clearly in the classical competition policy related to the mergers, and so it's very clear that the decision is not a consequence of the DMA. Of course, the DMA will have an influence in the future, but here it's a very clear competition decision related to a possible merger.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. That was very clear. Do we have other questions on the case at hand? Yes, please.
Hello, Nicholas Hurst from MLEX again. Two questions, if I can. You said that today's decision is not entirely novel, but we think it still is somewhat novel, and it seems to be sending a message to digital companies that if they try and do deals that may appear to be only tangentially beneficial to their core business, they better think twice. Do you think that's right? Does it reflect a tougher position on digital markets in light of everything the Commission has learnt in the last few years? And a second question, if I can, I'd be curious to know whether you are planning on finishing this mandate as Competition Commissioner, and if so, perhaps you could say a word or two about what your vision is or what your priorities would be.
So first of all, I will say that about the next days and weeks, I will continue to work on competition like I'm working on other issues, and we'll see what should be or could be the situation in the future. Of course, I will have the opportunity to explain not my vision on the competition policy, but the vision of the college, and we have had some evolutions in that. Of course, we'll continue to enforce the classical rules, and this is the reason why I said that this decision is fully aligned with the rules about antitrust, about mergers, but also about the state aid. But you know that we are working more and more with a possibility to organize the relocalization of some research and development and some productions in Europe, like in the batteries, in hydrogen, in many other kind of sectors like the chips, because we have had the CHIPS Act again. And on that, of course, it's maybe a change to go to a real industrial policy due to the lessons learned from the COVID pandemic in the health sector, and there we have a lot of things to do, due to also the Russian aggression against Ukraine and the consequence on the energy market, but in other markets too. So that will be an evolution. But first of all, we continue to enforce very strictly the rules that we have at our disposal, and we continue to work on a vision on, the strategic autonomy of the European Union and the capacity to invest a lot in the different fields. For the fact that it's a new decision or a totally new decision, I've said no, this is not the case, because there are some reference in the past due to the fact that it was possible to take decision with also non-horizontal approaches. But what is true, it's new that we have such a kind of important case in the digital world with such a kind of evolution. It's maybe due to the lesson learned also in the last years, like you said. But what is true and what is possible to say is that I'm totally new in the sector. So I will let maybe some experts explaining to you, if you want later, in the briefing, the technical briefing, what were the previous cases that is possible to link with this decision, because I don't want to enter in such a technical decision. Maybe in some weeks I will do that, but not today.
Thank you very much. David, is on the case at hand? Okay, just hold on 1 second and I'll see, does anybody else have any other questions? I see one hand raised in the chat. Matthijs?
Yeah, good morning. Matthijs Schiffers, Het Financiële Dagblad. I was wondering, is there anything Booking can do to remedy the concerns? So what they've done so far was clearly not enough. Is there anything else they can do to change your mind? Thanks.
But of course, we have had a discussion, and the services have had a long discussion about the possible remedies, and then a test on the market. But after some time, it's needed to conclude. And it was possible to conclude that it was not enough, and so we took decision about the interdiction. There are all the time possibilities to do more, but it's normal that in a process you need to conclude after a certain exchange with the companies. And we have received many proposals, we have tested proposals, and at the end the conclusion was very clear.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that exhausts the questions on the case at hand. I think we have time maybe for one or two short questions. David.
Yes, thank you. David Carretta, Radio Radicale, Italian Radio. Some days ago, the Italian government accused the European Commission of blocking the Lufthansa-ITA deal. The Italian Prime Minister said that it is worried that the EU Commission is blocking the solution to the ITA problem. I'm wondering if you have a comment on that, if it's true that you are blocking the solution, and if you can enlighten us on the problem in the pre-notification phase of this deal. Thank you.
No, it's true that it's all the time possible to have many exchanges during a pre-notification situation, but what is very important after the declaration that I've heard is to say that the transaction has not been formally notified to the Commission, and you know that we will start really the process after the notification. And of course, it's to the different companies involved to decide to notify. On my side, I'm all the time very open to have a discussion with the different actors, so at the level of the government or the companies. Till now, we didn't receive any formal request to have such a dialogue, but again, I'm very open if there are some requests to organize such a meeting. But it's in the hands of the companies to decide to notify, and if there are some requests to organize a contact, I will be very open to do that.
Thank you. Sabina?
It's a follow-up. Sabina Rosetta Ansa, thank you. It's a follow-up on this. Okay, you are open on meeting them, and there has not been a notification yet, but as far as we have understood, it is normally to have discussions before formally submitting the request. And so may I ask you what is your assessment of these informal pre-notification discussions, and if you see that there could be main issues that could block the operation or change substantially its nature, or whatever is your assessment on Lufthansa-ITA. Thank you.
Again, it's possible to collect a lot of information about the situation, but now it will be to the companies themselves to decide to notify or not if there is a real influence at the EU level with the EU dimension. So it will be to the companies to do that. And I want to comment, of course, about the pre-notification discussions. When we'll receive a notification, we'll start the formal procedure. But again, if there are some questions like the question that you have raised in the head of some actors, I'm very open to organize a meeting and to receive the different protagonists. But till now, I didn't receive any request for such a contact.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner. I think that concludes the press conference today. If you are interested, we'll have a technical briefing now starting in a couple of minutes for any of those technical questions that you might have. And as usual, we'll have midday at 12. Thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner, for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.